So GM everyone, we are back with our Finding Alpha series in which we gonna cover various topics and get to know about this stuff about from the industry leaders. So we are having the fourth episode of the series whose topic is future of the intent in Web3. What significance it's playing in shaping the blockchain industry so far. So also make sure to mark your attendance till the ending because we are gonna drop some serious alpha today. So let's get started. So I'm Kshitij Garg, intern at UniLend Finance, and we are with Ayush Garg from our team, who is marketing and operation lead. And we will be our host today. So without any delay, we are going to start this show. This evening we are joined by Connor, co-founder Enso Finance, Oxytocin, head of governance and community Paraswap, Alpacan, uh, business developer from Router Protocol. On the behalf of whole community, I want to welcome all you guys for joining us today. They are building so much things in this space. So let's get dive into the topic of future of intent and Web3. Before we start, so can we have some GM in the chat, guys? Uh, so let's get started with some introduction. So Connor, can you start with that?
Sure, happy to. So I'm Connor Howe, one of the co-founders of Enso. I've been building full-time in this industry since 2016. And prior to starting Enso, I helped build a fully regulated and licensed digital asset bank here within Switzerland. Enso is a tool that enables developers to build applications on top of blockchain very easily. So the narrative of this is the intent engine. Before, developers would need to integrate every single smart contract on every single blockchain framework for building their products. This is redundant, it also requires a lot of maintenance and a lot of high costs. With Enso, now developers can simply express what protocols they would like to integrate for their users and ship products very, very fast. We see the progression of this industry moving forwards of people shipping products very quickly to find product market fit. And this is where Enso comes into play.
Guys, keep an eye on Enzo Finance. They are building some seriously cool stuff. So make sure to check out them. So next, Alpacan, can you give a brief intro? Before that, I want to congratulate on your mainnet launch. We are hoping that Router are building some cool stuff in the space. So let's get started.
Thank you. Thanks for having us in this AMA. My name's Arkan. I've been in this space for almost 3.5, 4 years, mainly doing BD in different DeFi protocols. So Router is a full suite interoperability protocol. As you mentioned, we just launched our Router chain, which is a specific L1 which focuses on interoperability. Other than that, we have our own products called Router Nitro, which is an intent-based cross-chain bridge. And we have a framework called CCIF, Cross-Chain Intents Framework, where user is basically abstracting all the UX to a single click within their provision, whatever they want to fulfill, and obviously within our partnerships with the DeFi protocols. But yeah, we can dive on these further along the way.
Great, great, great. Oxytocin, can you please introduce yourself to the community?
GM everyone, I'm Oxy. I'm the head of governance community at Paraswap. So, for those of you who are not familiar, Paraswap is a DEX aggregator. We are one of the top three ones in terms of volume in most of the EVM networks, from Ethereum to many others. And we recently announced our new intents based product, Paraswap Delta, which is going to help people abstract the gas and MEV away from their trades. Delta is going to be built atop the brand new Portuguese network, which is going to be our way to basically create an intense infrastructure that's going to be accessible for everyone for maximum modularity. So everyone that's in the intense space, you're more than welcome to join us as soon as we launch the first version of Portuguese. And yeah, what else to say? I am a DJ now for like about 5 years, and super happy to be here. So nice to speak with all of you.
So great. So our community is glad to have you all in the podcast today. So I have prepared some questions with me. So I will throw them at you guys, and you have to answer it for our dear listeners. So can we start with the questions?
Sure, let's go.
So starting with my first question, how should we redefine the definition of intents within the Web3 ecosystem to encompass emerging technology and pilgrims?
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of give our version of the intent definition. For us, it's a very expressive language. You know, it's I have A and I want B, C, and D. And B, C, and D could be an NFT position, a DeFi position, a token, or it could even be any arbitrary smart contract call. Now, what this results in is users and developers not needing to understand or care about the underlying logic to be able to go from A to B, C, and D. So, for example, if you're a user and you already know your outcome is interacting with DeFi protocol called Beefy that requires an Aura LP, that requires a balancer LP, that requires 3 different tokens. Without intents, you're needing to go to 4 different interfaces, do 10 plus different transactions. And now with Enso, you can simply express either for your users or as a user what outcome you want. So this is our definition of intents. Now, intents, that category of intents is more explicit, i.e., I have this and I want that. We see different variations of intents kind of evolving over the ecosystem. So you'll have explicit A to B, then you'll also have semi-explicit. I want to lend on a protocol that has not been hacked, but you're not explicitly stating what that protocol is. It could be Avi, it could be Morpho, it could be Compound, it could be Euler, right? But you're creating these variations around in these like different variables to take into account to then equate what that protocol would be. Then the third one is not explicit at all. They would purely learn from your previous behavior of what you've done on chain to then interpret what your intention is before you even understand what your intent is. Now, for us as a project, we've been primarily focused on the DeFi aspect so far. Our tooling has enabled over $12 billion to be settled on chain in the last year. And we see the Intents ecosystem expanding more than just DeFi or tokens, but also any smart contract interaction and also NFTs and so forth.
Cool, cool. Oxytocin, what are your views on that?
Yeah, I feel like Connor already gave a pretty thorough definition. I wanted to focus on an aspect of the question, which was the idea of refining the definition of intents. In my opinion, actually, we should go the other way around. Right now, the idea of intents is kind of narrow. People, whenever they think intents, they think an auction-based swap or something where it's just like I want to swap token A to token B, and it's become kind of synonymous one with the other. So whenever you say like I'm building on the intents infrastructure, people just think directly into that one. But kind of distilling what has already been said, I feel the very, very, very simple way of defining intents and then understanding what we're building within the Web3 space is this idea of separating the person who's asking and separating the person who's executing. Obviously, this comes with many advantages. We get the ability to abstract many of the complicated things from Web3 away. For us, that we've been already working on it, they sound pretty obvious. Things like paying gas or interacting with tokens, making sure that everything is safe. But if we want true mass adoption, if we want people to be interacting with Web3 without noticing, which is kind of like the dream, we'll need to get this very specific intense definition of somebody asking and somebody fulfilling to really take on and have more people building on top of it.
Nice, nice. Alpakan, would you like to add something in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So intent in overall in Web3 ecosystem, like all of the speakers here mentioned, should be defined as user-driven statements of like a desired outcomes. So they must be obviously be adaptable to all the emerging technologies within the ecosystem. Just because they need to ensure that they capture all the evolving capabilities and interactions within the ecosystem. So For me, this definition is simply like enables intents to bridge the gap between user desires and the technological execution in a certain extent, because it's making them dynamic and responsive to the new paradigms. I mean, as the overall ecosystem evolves, let's say, intents should maintain the flexibility for these new functionalities and standards. Ultimately, like at the end goal, obviously, as they mentioned, it's about mass adaptation. So intents should function as the interface through like which users are trying to fulfill their provisions. And with Router, we use intents in overall tech stack, and our underlying technology simply aiming to fulfill all of these efficiently within each product we have.
Hello everyone. Sorry for
Definitely,
joining a bit
definitely.
late. So,
So
taking forward, actually, uh, like intent is like very hot right now. But what is the need of intent in the Web3 space, and like if is there any equivalent of intents in Web2 space? If you can throw some light on that.
Happy to start again. I mean, the benefits of intents are one, you can build your products a lot faster. You can simply express what outcome you would like to obtain within your product instead of building all these individual steps yourself. The second benefit is directly for the users. So that user experience journey of not going to many different interfaces, but simply going to one. Then the third one is also the executional side. So if you're a user, you're obviously wanting to obtain the best execution, whether that's on gas or whether that's on tokens. So for example, if you're swapping from, I don't know, USDC to DAI, maybe if you're only going to one interface that's an exchange, you're better to go to an intent network such as Router or Paraswap, for example, or CowSwap, where underneath you will have many different network participants that are actually competing to then also offer you the better price. So I think for me, those are the three most valuable. Now you can kind of extend this to what kind of tools can be built on top of intents, since this is such an expressive and such an easy way of now interacting with blockchain, you could also have, let's say, automation products on top, maybe automations of particular types of intents. And then those particular types of intents combined together can also create a different type of product. So you can also create these layers of products all built on top of intents that then also propels the ecosystem further into what we view the ecosystem should be doing, which is building products and not building paper. So people need to be able to building and shipping products very, very quickly, within 4 hours, within 2 days, and intents enable people to do this.
Got it. Like, is it like if it if you can tell something in Web2 world, or which is already existing, like we are using a lot of websites or e-commerce and things, and they are it's all user centric. So in the like traditional world, is there a equivalent of intent which already exists so that
Google
our users
Maps, Google Maps, Uber, your intent is to go from location A to location B. And Google
Mhm.
Maps will find you the most optimal way to be able to do that, encompassing many different factors such as traffic, such as what type of mode of transport, and so forth. So that's one very, very good expressive intent. The other one is also Skyscanner. You've got these different aggregators for different types of tools like Kayak and so forth. These are great, great examples of intents in the Web2 world. And intents really are just prompts for transactions itself. So intents is just an expression of what you would like to do. And then underneath, you also need people to then build these algos to be able to determine what the best way to do this is.
Yeah, we go as far as to say that like intents, I know you mentioned specifically Web 2, but they're a lot more ubiquitous than what we notice. So, for example, even if we go a level below Web 2, below Web 1, we go to Web 0, you go to a cafe and you ask somebody, can you make me a latte? You can make it at home. You can execute every step yourself. You can get the beans. You can grind them. You can make everything, every single step. You can get the cute flower latte art that you want, or you can get somebody that just makes it for you. All you need to know is what you want. You want a latte. You know how much you're willing to pay for it, and this payment makes somebody, the barista, say like, okay, I'm gonna take this for you and actually do the latte. So even though intent sounds like a very unapproachable word, any kind of service like this, it's something that could be called intent, and that's why I feel like it's very exciting to see it getting onboarded more and more into Web3. The idea that like we don't have to make everything do it yourself. We can have somebody that specifically addresses all of the issues that we have.
Interesting. So, Alpakan, if you want to add anything to this.
Yeah, I can just approach from the Web3 side of the things within the question of like existing standards and how intents are can be in harmony with them. So, I mean, obviously, intents are being integrated with the standards such as ERCs and apes, but this serves to a higher level of abstraction, right? When we think about aligning intents with these protocols, with the standardized protocols, it improves the composability of these contracts and all the dApps, etc. Where it comes to the thing that Connor mentioned, that we reduce the workload and the hustle to deploy something within the intent narrative. So this simple approach, even this simple approach can just simplify the interactions of the users, just do the Web3 ecosystem more accessible to Web2 users, which will benefit the mass adaptation. And obviously, additionally, it creates a more cooperative and cohesive ecosystem, right? When you think that with intent, existing protocols can work together, it is just a win-win.
Got it. Interesting. So, I think the next question is again linked to this. Kshitij, can you go ahead and ask the question?
So next question is, how can intents be utilized to alleviate liquid fragmentation across various DeFi platforms?
Connor, you can start.
I'll let Paraswap start because I've been
Okay.
starting the last two times.
Okay. Yeah, this is more DeFi thing. I think Oxytocin must be having
Thank you.
some.
So, how are you addressing, like, fragmentation is one of those problems that is going to be happening sooner or later as part of decentralization. If you don't keep everything in the same location, sooner or later, like, liquidity is going to be split up. We saw this with, like, at the beginning with DEXs. The idea that, like, we saw many different DEXs rising with different models for their marketplaces. You had places like Curve, you had places like Uniswap, you had places like Balancer. And that's kind of what we're trying to see in Web3. We're trying to see this idea of everyone trying their own approach for DeFi and making it maximally composable. But obviously, this fragmentation is not good for the end user experience. Paraswap was built at the beginning to address the fragmentation at the DEX level. We put everything together, gave you the best quote, and then just tapped into the different source of liquidity. Now, especially in the Ethereum ecosystem, we are seeing a similar fragmentation, however, on the layers, the layer 2 levels. You have different chains, each one with their own markets, each one with their own block times, that, unlike the atomicity of having everything in the same layer, becomes a lot more complicated to do on the smart contract level. And this is where, in my opinion, the intents really begin to shine, because since we have an executor, somebody working outside of the usual blockchain ecosystem, you get to abstract the experience away from each one of the chains to be able to bring all of these liquidities together. You don't need to have any more all of these very complicated issues about, like, how do you align the oracles? How do you make sure that everything executes on time? All of this is taken over by the different we call them agents, but like whoever wants to execute the order that you requested. And in a way, this is why intents are going to be helping also assist, in my opinion, with the core idea of Web3. This idea of like everyone having, like, for example, their own app rollups, their layer twos, different commitments, as opposed to having to compromise between having liquidity in one place and having decentralization. Intents allows everything to build together. And yeah, it's something that was kind of needed if we wanted to keep building the way that we are right now.
I mean, to
Good.
add on to
Alpacan,
this,
Yeah,
yes.
go ahead.
Alpcan, if you want to go.
Yeah, my point of view is again like aligned with other respective speakers. So simply intents can aggregate liquidity across DeFi, right? Because they enable users to express their, let's say, desired outcomes depending on the each users. So protocols can then like fulfill these intents by sourcing the best possible liquidity, like from multiple sources. Obviously, this will reduce the fragmentation and inefficiencies, right? So in the same time, this approach also allows for like more effective capital utilization. Um, we need to address this liquidity fragmentation uh, to also enhance the like robustness and the functionality within the DeFi. Obviously, there are like multiple elements. I'm pretty sure we will answer these, such as like abstracted UX, UI designs, chain abstraction as well. But simply, it's just about focusing on the outcomes rather than processes itself to address this liquid fragmentation with intents. Will be beneficial for users, and it will create like let's say fluid financial environment and ecosystem.
Yeah, I agree with both people's points. I think one topic to kind of bring up on this one, like how can intents be utilized to alleviate liquidity fragmentation? Intents enable these developers and users to then express, and then individuals underneath, such as an Enso intent engine, or whether that's solvers or resolvers, fillers, transmitters, whatever it may be, they need to be aware of all of the liquidity across all the different chains. So it's more like an addition to this question is a fundamental issue that sure people can express it, but if people are going to fulfill these requests, they need to be aware of all of this. And the question is, do we have enough solvers in the ecosystem to be able to do that as of today? The answer is no. There's maybe 20 solvers in the whole ecosystem, maybe 5 that are doing a very good job. And that's why we actually built Enso. So Enso, anyone can start collaborating to this, start adding to the network itself, so that we can have as much distribution and as much awareness as possible. Now, to kind of add on onto many people's points that have been said, to be able to do this liquidity fragmentation, a lot of the solvers in the ecosystem today don't use their own inventory. They primarily do routing, like on-chain routing, whether that's into DeFi projects or that's into liquidity pools. So to be able to get to this position of full intent requests across many different chains of any particular chain, you need solvers that are willing to take this risk of inventory. And there's not that many as of today that do this. So it's a great goal to kind of aim to, but it's going to be very challenging convincing people to hold their own inventory.
So moving ahead now, I want to ask, how can we leverage intents to signify improve UI UX design in decentralized applications, considering both usability and user experience? What are your views on it? Alpacan, you can start on that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So we need to first of all leverage the intents in depth, right? Because we all know that they can significantly enhance the UX by abstracting it, just minimizing the need for like complex multi-step processes. So intents just simply enable users to specify what they want to achieve, what are their provisions, and what do they want to get at the endpoint. So We will simply allow intents, the underlying technology of the intents to handle the execution. And user will basically have the abstracted UX. With router, we do this with cross-chain intents framework, where we built adapters for protocols. We had nice partnerships with Lido, Stakestone, some DEXs and AMMs, such as Linex, Truster. So what we do is that when we build an adapter, user can simply use any source chain and any asset that we integrated into router ecosystem. And simply, if it's liquid staking, LRTs, liquidity provisioning, or money market protocols, they can do it from any chain with any asset to destination chain with a single click. So we just focus on, as I mentioned earlier as well, we focus on outcomes rather than processes, which enables obviously these partners, these dApps, to reach the broader audience from all over the ecosystem, all over the Web3 ecosystem, because sometimes, not all of the dApps can be deployed on all chains. So we provide that on the source side as well. But if we speak more broader terms, it's just at the end, intents can simply drive much greater adaptation by making dApps more accessible, and to be honest, more enjoyable to use as well, like, because there won't be that much of hustle on the user's perspective.
Yeah, just
Okay,
to
cool.
clarify the questions regarding kind of the improvements of user experience of intents, is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
sweet. Yeah, I mean, I kind of said it in the first part. It improves many different aspects on the users, the different user experience journeys. They don't need to experience this. Better gas efficiency, better token out. For the developers, they can simply build the product without needing to build manual integrations themselves, which then propels this ecosystem even further for being able to build products and ship these to find product market fit. And intents, again, you could have different types of products, such as an automation tool and an automation of different types of intents combined together, and that could be an isolated product itself. So I think the expansion of intents and how it improves this ecosystem, honestly, so many different dimensions that we fully don't understand it just yet, which is great. It's got high impact within this space.
So, adding on to what everyone has said, like the benefits with the users and the ability of simplifying many things are obviously like a very big advantage. But another thing that I feel like is becoming super exciting and I've seen developing more and more in the intent space is also how much easier it's going to be to build an infrastructure that anyone can plug into and discover brand new crazy use cases. So it was mentioned before that currently there's a very small number of intents following a very specific use case, such as the routing kind. One of the things that we are currently building with Porticus, which is something that we're trying to leverage to adopt the highest level of intent development possible, is this idea of modularity. So in addition to having the usual intent solving structure where somebody requests something and somebody else fulfills it, the Porticus will be built with maximum modularity in mind, which allows anyone to just build a very specific use case that nobody else has thought of and just add it to the Porticus library. So what does this mean in terms of the UI and UX? It means that in the future, if a new programmer wants to be making a very tailored use case, they could be grabbing onto the existing modules that other people have developed and be able to spin up their own idea on how to use the intents within a few hours. And obviously, not many of us are on-chain builders here, but that is something right now that is severely lacking on the on-chain ecosystem. Because obviously, on-chain, anything you publish, anything you make on-chain, it stays there forever. You need to audit. You need to have like extreme care to be able to make sure that everything works. Even if you try to go with something like upgradability, it becomes a lot more difficult. And this is an angle that I feel like we still haven't seen to its maximal extent. By leveraging a very modular, intense ecosystem, not only do we get the maximized user experience that we saw other people mention, but we might get more developers, and we will get more developers using Web3, leveraging it, and being able to do whatever comes into their minds. So that's something that we're going to be seeing a lot more down the line, in my opinion.
Yeah, to kind of add on to this one, this is inherently what we built at Enso, and this has already been live in production for the last year. So we have projects such as iPod that are combining more than 15 different transactions and many different use cases into one. We have a very, very similar concept as you in the regard of people being able to build products and also combining products of many products. So then create many different use cases. What type of use cases do you see outside of DeFi, outside of NFTs and so forth, that you've kind of seen that could be very interesting to build on top?
I mean, one of the most obvious ones, in my opinion, is going to be the presence of AI and the idea of AI agents being able to interact autonomously within the space. So right now, I mean, I hope this doesn't come as a surprise to anyone, but robots cannot own bank accounts. So it means that whenever we want an AI agent to be interacting with the world, we don't have a system that either onboards them to be able to own assets, or it doesn't allow them to actually act completely autonomously. In my opinion, obviously it is still in the very early stages, both in the AI and Web3 space, but I can see it being that like AI agents will be operating purely as intent execution systems. Because if we look at the Web2 permissioned environment, if you wanted to make something like that, like a completely independent AI agent that like taps into things, tries to be your assistant, and tries to help you with things, on the permission space, you have to request every single service to let you into their walled garden to be able to get the correct APIs and execute everything. Now let's look at it into like the Web3 environment where like anyone can plug in, anyone can build whatever roads they want, and anyone can get their own modules. If we walk away from DeFi and we walk away from these kind of NFT things and we extend it into the core idea of what blockchains are for, which is the idea of like permissionless ownership, AI agents will be able to really be unleashed and be able to get like all these kind of crazy use cases that we haven't even seen yet. I feel that's kind of part of the reason why many of these modern products, like, I don't know, the AI pin, the humane pin, and the Rabbi haven't been able to truly shine yet. Because even if you wanted to make something as simple as like working with Spotify, you had to get a permission idea to be able to see like what things does the user even own. The more we start building on the Web3 ecosystem, the more AI agents are going to be able to like truly be assistants and actually be able to like come in and out and own different things. I know it's very speculative, but like it's one of the things that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, it's not really speculative. Like you've got Brian knows AI, you've got another couple of AI intent projects that are doing exactly this in production. So it's not that far away from reality. Um, yeah, I agree with your thesis of bringing more Web2 developers into this ecosystem. And as of today, they're needing to build everything themselves. And with these particular tools, they can just, plug and play and ship very, very quickly.
Yeah, I feel what's missing from development, like on our space on Web3, we are already like building a very strong infrastructure. We just have to see what's going to be happening on the AI side of things, in my opinion. We still haven't even scratched the surface.
Agreed.
Okay, that's a lot of insight. So we have been learning that to implement an intent-based approach, there has to be a chain abstraction model, and from the beginning of the blockchain space, the chains have been the uh, tier one, like they have been responsible for onboarding users and they have been building their own ecosystems. So if we move to an intent based approach, who will be the players which will be responsible for onboarding more and more users to the ecosystem?
I mean, we're positioning Enso as a developer tool that anybody can build any application leveraging blockchain very easily. So we're going to start converting a lot more Web2 developers. In the past year and a half, we've been focused more more on applications that are in the Web3 space, DeFi protocols, aggregators such as Router that also use Enso underneath. But we're going directly for the developers in the Web2 space that want to start building on top of Web3. Now, I think they have the opportunity for then shaping what the UX should look like within the Web3 space, as they have a new type of tool that enables them to just build and integrate anything they want. Whereas I think Web3 developers, as of today, we kind of have this already predefined user experience flow as to how products should be shown. And we need to bring more Web2 developers into this to break this mold in this curve.
Definitely. So you are targeting yourself to the developers, and you are marketing that okay, you guys come to us. We and if you want to use the blockchain, we are like the most simplest or user friendly way of for developers to interact with blockchain.
Spot on. Spot on. I mean, without Enso, they would need to build, let's say, a mini product they want to release. It would take 6, 7, 8 months with all the integrations, with all the chains, all the smart contracts. With Enso, they can get up and running within hours, if not days, and then test this product and release it. Do it over a weekend, see if it works, see if it doesn't. And that's kind of part of the ecosystem that we need to move forward with.
Interesting. So projects like Enzo can be one of those people who will be responsible to onboard developers. Uh,
We can try.
what about you, El and Oxy?
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
go ahead, Oxy. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that like I feel that this kind of onboarding, the more we see different kind of use cases being built, the more and more niche we're gonna see the kind of people that are gonna help bring one into the other. So right now, since we see mostly a DeFi ecosystem, I can see existing players like helping with the adoption. But for example, I can see with intent this idea of having a very specified person working in a very specified field that still technically works in the intents ecosystem, but helps on board like a very unique kind of person. For example, let's say that like we want to be making music onto intents. Um, Obviously, you're going to have the dev tooling that the initial person is going to have to build, and it's going to have to make all these things. But afterwards, once you have this very specific person, they'll be able to tailor to their own needs. Right now in the Web3 ecosystem, everyone has more or less the same onboarding. You have to teach them about how the blocks work, how the gas works. And if we are able to abstract all of this away and we make these infrastructures that completely remove this, I can see it going a step ahead and having completely new kinds of people that are going to be helping with the onboarding of ownership.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Oxy. So we need to focus on the seamless onboarding and reduce the hustle for the user that is not familiar with the Web3 ecosystem. But on the side, if we talk about, let's say, our internal ecosystem within Web3, we as Router, as I mentioned earlier, we deployed our chain, Router chain, which is on mainnet now, and the chain itself is fully focused on interoperability. That's the sole function of the chain. And therefore, we are focusing more on the, let's say, removing the gaps between all of the chains. Since Router is Cosmos SDK and leveraging BPT, we will be able to connect. I mean, we are already connecting all the ecosystems, which is right now kind of isolated when you look at the EVM and non-EVM landscape. On the other end, we have a couple more products like our intent-based cross-chain bridge and also the framework that again it's both user-friendly and developer-friendly because everyone can deploy their cross-chain dApps using CCF. But yeah, overall, it's the brief introduction how we are positioning at Router. Also, since Connor is in the call as well, we have a nice ongoing partnership with Enso, and we will be scaling that as well.
Cool. So guys, think we have had a long session about intents. I believe that there's a lot of things that we are seeing to unfold in the future, and there are a lot of great products are coming into the whole intent-based approach ecosystem. So, as we name this program as Finding Alpha, so that all the people who are watching can get some alpha about the project and the whole ecosystem in the industry. So, all of you, can you please share one alpha about your project or industry or anything? So, we can go ahead with anyone of you who would like to go first, or
Connor, come on.
Connor.
What was the question? Alpha? I mean, it's not really alpha, but Enso is currently doing a token launch on CoinList. It's an
That's
auction,
great.
so you're able to, just define your own price of where you think Enso is valuable. We want to get as much distribution and as much community members to then be part of the Enso vision. And the Enso vision really is product beats paper. And we are building tooling that enables people to build products and not simply just write white papers. So that's kind of the alpha. The next stage of Enso, we'll be launching the network, kind of opening this up where anybody can contribute to Enso to then solve many different types of intents. And we have our own layer one chain. It's based on Tendermint and the Cosmos SDK that will store all this information on how to interact with particular protocols. And there's 3 different network participants called an action provider and how to execute with a protocol. Number 2 is a grapher. They listen to intent requests, find the most optimal path across all the solutions being provided. And then the last one, but definitely not least, is called a validator. They then simulate the routes that have been built by the graphers, and then all of this combined will then create kind of the most powerful intent engine for all different types of use cases. We're only just starting this journey on this intent engine, i.e., Enso's been building for 3.5 years, but we need all blockchains, we need all smart contracts to be available through this intent engine. And that's what really, really will propel the next generation of products to be built within this ecosystem.
That's super cool, man. I hope that we'll be able to use the. Is your chain live on testnet or somewhere, or do you guys have?
I mean, so we're currently live on a centralized version of this network, and we've enabled over $12 billion to be settled on chain. We have over 35 plus projects using us in production, most notably Router, Li-Fi, Cowswap, and many, many more. So it's a live and a centralized version. The decentralized version is just about to be released.
Cool, that's great. Elpcan or Oxy, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, for me, if this question would come a week ago, I would simply say router chain for the alpha. But now we can just look out
Can be more
for.
specific.
But for now, we can just look out for a couple of good partnerships, which will come in upcoming weeks, and which will be further incentivized from both ends, from both partner and router ends, to the users. Again, built on the intent framework.
That's great. Oxy, you are left. Then
Yeah,
we will
thank
also
you.
share an alpha.
Well, I mean, I have a pretty obvious one that's happening right now. As I said, like we have the launch of Paraswap Delta around the corner, which is going to be a pretty big milestone for Paraswap, thanks to the ability of protecting trades, delivering the best swap experience for everyone. And to be able to celebrate this, we launched an exclusive Layer 3 quest. So we have over 1 million stake tokens currently available for anyone to come in and participate. If you want to see the Layer 3 link, it's just on our Twitter timeline at Paraswap. And yeah, complete a few quests, stake a minimum amount, and you can be one of the people eligible for a share of the 1 million stake PSP. Something you can do right now. Of building out for the alpha, what's happening next with Delta and Portuguese.
That's cool. So let me share one alpha also. So UniLend team has been working on the DeFi product, and we are building on this permissionless lending and borrowing protocol. And now we have figured out that there's a lot of liquidity fragmentation problems, and we are also coming up with a solver chain, which is going to be on an intent centric model, and we are going to drop more details about it very soon. So do check out our social media and Numa Chain social media. And we'll also flash all the partners and all the projects who are here, their social media accounts. So do follow, do check out, and do find whatever updates you see, and definitely participate in all the activities. I think it is a very early stage for the intent centric ecosystem, and it is going to be used at uh, and like around 1,500 people who are watching. You guys are very early into this space, and we would like want everybody to please go ahead and don't only just listen, but check out the product, try it yourself. If there is testnet version, or if there is a mainnet version, or there are different versions available, so do check out, do try. There may be some great airdrop opportunity, who knows. So do check it out. Thanks everyone for joining. This is kind of end of the session. Thank you for tuning in. There was a little bit of hiccup at the beginning, but it was a great session, and lots of insight we got to know about the whole intent centric ecosystem. Uh, Kshitij, any words from you?
So this marks the end of our today's discussion on future of intents and Web3. I want to thank all our esteemed panelists, Connor, Oxytocin, Alpacan, for their time and insightful perspective on insights. And for our listeners, I want them to check out Enso Finance, Paraswap, and Router Protocol. They are doing some really great stuff. So do check them out. So cool. That's all. Thank you for joining us today. We will be back soon with such another topic to fascinate you all, guys. So don't forget us to follow in the meantime, and such more Alpha Pack live panel discussions are up to come. So thanks once again, and bye bye,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you for having us. Bye bye.
Thanks
Thank
everyone.
you. Have a good one.